A little bit that way.
Which way?
That way. Tad bit. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
Wakanda forever. Hi and welcome to another video. So in the last video I went through the Adidas Ambition Black Panther Edition spikes. So these are a mid-distance spike, so from 800 meters and upwards, including steeplechase. I went through the design and features of the spike and compared them to the sprint version of these, which is the Prime SP 2.0s. I bought these for the purpose of doing 400 meter training at paces of 80% and below. However, I did see people in the indoor season use these as out and out sprint spikes, doing 60 meters, 200 meters and 400 meters. So I was keen to find out not only what they're like in a slower 400 meter training, but also if they can be used as out and out sprint spikes. So in this video, I'm going to be going through what my thoughts are on these spikes after over 3 months of using them. But before I do this, I'm going to show you a couple of videos of me training with these spikes, and then I'll give my thoughts and conclusion on these spikes.
Okay, so today I'll be doing with my buddy Harry a 400 meter training session. So it's going to be 300 meters and a bollock. I can't even remember what the rest period is.
So it's a 300.
Then what? Is it
2 minute rest.
Oh, is it
and
2
then
minutes?
2 minute rest.
2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minute rest and then 100.
It's hard.
Yeah, please keep that in there.
Not really sure why I'm surprised, because I'm the one who actually suggested this session. You can see me there jumping with the spikes, not something I would have done with the Max Flies because of the air bubble. However, because it's a foam, I got a bit of confidence in them. So now I get a chance to see what my first impressions are like when I do the strides.
They feel quite cushiony, actually.
Yeah.
They don't feel that hard, actually. Feels alright when you up the pace a bit.
So on with the first 400 meter splits. I was going to do 2 sets of these with about 15 to 20 minutes between them. The 300 meter would be about 90%, which is race pace. It just so happens these videos I was doing 90% and above. I did use these spikes in training at 8% and below. So the aim was to do the 341.42 seconds, and then after 2 minutes we do 100 meters as hard as possible. So the thought process of this is, if you add the 100 meter time and the 300 meter time together, it should give you a rough estimate for your 400 meter time. Now, an interesting thing to note is, even though we're similar in speed, we have different energy systems. I'm more power oriented, whilst Harry has a better aerobic capacity, which basically means it takes me longer to recover. So I got a time of 41.58, Harry got 42.7, which is close enough. So after that short recovery, I'm a bit worse for wear, not fully recovered. Harry's more recovered. You can see I couldn't get off the line quickly because I'm fatigued. He's got the aerobic capacity. Now, I didn't manage to record the actual time on the camera, but using video editing, I think Harry did it in about 14.4 seconds and I was about 15.1 seconds. Which would equate to 56.68 seconds for me and 57.1 seconds for Harry on this set. So after nearly 20 minutes of recovery, we're doing the second set of 400 splits, running them quite strong, a little bit fatigued, but we're still running with good form, and Harry's a little bit closer this time. We're both absolutely exhausted. However, I can actually do stuff like jump, and that's because it's a fast twitch thing rather than an aerobic thing. So looking at the times, I ran it in 41.85 and Harry in 42.32. So he was a little bit quicker and I was a little bit slower. Yeah, you can clearly hear the suffering that I'm going through. I can barely get myself to be ready on the line. Took a little over 2 minutes, and when I mustered enough willpower to try and get myself ready, by the time I drive out, I'm a little bit sluggish. I actually became ill after that session and had to be on antibiotics, but whilst I was running I was okay. You can see Harry there is less fatigued, so he can actually push a bit harder than I can, and that's mainly down to his aerobic capacity. What I will say is, once I start going a distance of 250 meters and above, my energy level drops dramatically. Oh, you can see us over there. You got to acknowledge, you know, the hardcore session. So Harry got a time of 15.53 seconds and I got 16.47 seconds, which equates to a 57.85 for Harry and 58.32 seconds for me. The tables turned on that set.
Nike versus Adidas. This is how baller Harry is. He's got two, just one to each side. Really.
So another training session, and this time it's on a club night, and this time I'm using blocks. I wanted to see what they were like with fast sprints. It actually felt okay, but it wasn't until when you started to wear the actual dedicated sprint spikes that you realise these are perhaps not really great for sprints. As you can see in that slow motion video, as I'm coming out of the blocks, I'll drag my right foot and it, scrapes the ground, which isn't really great with these spikes. So another day, and we've got another variation on the 400 meter splits. This time it's two 200s. I tend to do quite well with these because 200s well within my energy level threshold, so I can do them quite quick with short recoveries. Got really good times, 26.54 and 27.33, perhaps a little bit too quick. 2 minutes later, now we've got the second 200, a little bit tired but not too tired. And now looking at the way that I'm running, perhaps the recovery time was too long for this, because still ran that second 200 quite well. You'll see the time there in a moment. Got a time of 28.76 seconds and 29.7, which equates to 55.3, which isn't realistic. I ran 58.2 in the indoor season. Now, when we did the second set of two 200s, this is when I started to get a bit more fatigued, and the times are a bit more realistic. Running 27.85 and 28.32 seconds. Now, Harry was suffering a lot more than I was this time because he'd actually been a week on holiday celebrating his 21st birthday. So yeah, he wasn't really feeling on form that day. Now, I was feeling okay, a bit fatigued really, but I would say that this set was perhaps a more true indicator of the times that I get in 400. And now I didn't manage to record this on screen, but I actually got 30.13 seconds. So that would equate to 57.98 seconds. So what are my thoughts on the ambitions? So when I first tried these spikes on, my feeling was they feel a bit cushiony, they feel a bit vague, and that's because of the Light Strike Pro foam. The quicker I ran at them, the better they felt. However, you feel a bit desensitized when you're running with these on the track. Similarly with the Max Flies, but even more so with these. Now with the Max Flies, the air bubble is very stiff and very aggressive, so it's very responsive when you hit the ground. Not so much with these. This, you feel like there's a bit of give to them, so when you hit the ground, you feel like there's a little bit of a lag before they react really, so it's not really nowhere near as responsive as the air bubble and the Max Flies. Now this will be quite different to the sprint version of these, which is the Prime SB 2.0s, because the Prime SB 2.0s have a more dense version of the foam, so it should be a lot more aggressive and more responsive. And my friend who has these says they are a lot more aggressive than these. But yeah, it's still a great spike. It's very comfy. Well, up to 90% paces, they felt really good. I would say 90% and above, that's when you start to notice that these aren't the bestest spikes really. So when I was using these with blocks or doing 100% runs, short runs, they didn't quite feel right. And when I changed the spikes and put the original primes I had, or the Max Flies, those were significantly better than these spikes really. Another thing with these spikes is when I was using blocks with these, I dragged my right foot with these and it shaved quite a bit off at the front there. So like I said before in the previous videos, the Prime SB2s has toe protection. This doesn't. Not that all sprint spikes have toe protection, but it's just another thing to note really. So I didn't actually compete with these in the indoor season. I only use them in training. I didn't do that great in the 400 meter indoors, and that's because when you do 400 meter indoors, it's quite different to running it outdoors, and I haven't had that much experience running indoors. Also, a big thing was I had to take over the group in training because my coach retired until we had a new coach. Now we got a new coach, things are starting to settle, and now I can focus on the training. Otherwise, I did great in the 300 and the 200, got indoor PBs, and on the 60 meter got close to my PB. So now the outdoor season has started. I don't actually use these in training anymore because we've increased the intensity in our training. I did actually use this in my first 400 meter in the outdoor competition. I was deliberating and debating whether to wear them or not because they feel a bit vague and a bit too cushiony. But when I ran in them, they felt okay. Didn't do that good. I got 60.5 seconds, but that's because I had a bit of an issue with my knee. And since that competition, I haven't been able to compete. So I'm trying to recover for the last few weeks. But yeah, they're a great spike. They're very comfy, certainly great to train with up to 80% and maybe even 90%. Would I compete with these spikes? Me personally, no. I wouldn't use them in 60, 100 or 200 or even 300. 400 possibly, you know, but I still think there are better spikes out than this for 400 meters. I might actually do a competition in 400 with these at some point later in the season once I'm in form, and I might actually use them for their intended purpose as an 800 meter spike if the club requires me to do so. Could they be used as sprint spikes? Yeah, you can get away with them as sprint spikes, but there are better alternatives. Now I'm going to be doing another video where I bought another set of Ambition spikes and I'm going to be dissecting them to seeing what they're like on the inside. So I'm particularly interested in the wishbone plate in the spike and seeing how the rest of the spike looks like on the inside. So I've committed myself now, so I gotta get it right. But in the meantime,